You're sitting at your desk, Monday morning, coffee going cold, and your student loan payment just cleared. $340, same as it clears every month. And for some reason, today you pull up the total balance. You haven't looked in a while, because looking doesn't help. The number stares back at you, $47,800. You graduated 6 years ago. You've been paying $340 a month for 6 years. That's $24,480 you've paid, and somehow you still owe $47,800. The interest, the capitalization, the way the math works when you're on the standard plan, it's designed so that the first decade of payments barely touches principal. And there's this thought you keep having but never say out loud. Was it worth it? The degree? The 4 years? The debt that's apparently going to follow you until you're 40? Was any of it actually worth it? You tell yourself it must have been. Everyone said it was necessary. Your parents pushed for it. Your high school counselors said college was non-negotiable if you wanted a career. You believed them. You did everything right. But you're making $58,000 a year. Your friend who went into a trade program makes $62,000 and has no student loans. And there's this quiet calculation you're doing. How much has college actually cost you versus what it's actually given you? My name's Peter, and if you've ever looked at your student loan balance and wondered if the degree was actually worth the debt and wanted to see the real math instead of the cultural narrative, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because the ROI on college education is not what it used to be, and running the honest numbers changes everything.
So, let's start with what college actually cost. Not just tuition, the full picture. You went to a state school, not private, not Ivy League, a solid public university. Tuition was about $12,000 a year. 4 years, that's $48,000. Room and board cost $11,000 a year, another $44,000. Books and fees, maybe $1,200 a year. That's $4,800. Total, $96,800. You had some scholarships, maybe $15,000 total over 4 years. You worked part-time, making $8,000 a year. That covered some costs. But the gap became loans, about $55,000 in loans by graduation. Then interest started at 6%, compounding. By the time you started making real payments, that $55,000 had grown to $62,000. Now it's $47,800 after 6 years of payments, but you've paid $24,480 toward it. Most of that went to interest. You've paid down maybe $15,000 of actual principal. So here's where you are. 6 years out, you've paid nearly $25,000 and still owe $48,000. At your current payment rate, you'll be done in about 12 more years. Total paid by the end, roughly $75,000 for a degree that cost $55,000 to obtain. But that's still not the full cost, because there's opportunity cost. 4 years of college is 4 years you weren't earning full-time. Your friend who went into HVAC certification started working at 19, making $35,000. By the time you graduated at 23, they'd earned $140,000. You'd earned $32,000 from part-time work and accumulated $55,000 in debt. The gap between you and them at age 23, roughly $183,000. That's the starting deficit before your first real paycheck. And here's something nobody talks about. That $140,000 your friend earned wasn't just sitting in a checking account. They were investing. Even putting $300 a month into an index fund from age 19 to 23, at average market returns, gives them about $16,000 in invested assets by the time you're graduating. You have negative net worth. That compounding gap follows you for decades. Now let's look at what the degree was supposed to give you in return. You graduate, you get a job. Entry-level marketing coordinator, $45,000 a year. Your HVAC friend is making $42,000 by then. You're ahead. The degree's working, right? Except after taxes, you're taking home about $2,900 a month. Your friend is taking home $2,750. You're ahead by $150 a month. But you have a $340 student loan payment. They don't. Net difference, you have $190 less per month than your friend. That's before accounting for the fact that you started earning 4 years later and entered the workforce with negative net worth, while they started with $100,000 in career earnings already banked. Now let's compare 3 different paths side by side, because this is where the math gets really uncomfortable. Path 1, 4-year college degree, marketing. Total education cost, $96,800. Loans, $55,000. Starting salary at 23, $45,000. Salary at 30, $58,000. Total loan repayment over 18 years, $75,000. Net worth at 30, approximately negative $15,000 after debt and minimal savings. Path 2, HVAC certification, 2 years. Total education cost, $8,000. No loans. Starting work at 19 at $35,000. Salary at 30, $62,000. Net worth at 30, approximately $85,000. Invested earnings, no debt, possible home equity. Path 3, coding bootcamp, 6 months. Total education cost, $15,000. Small loan or savings. Starting work at 22 at $65,000. Salary at 30, $85,000. Net worth at 30, approximately $60,000. The gap at age 30 between Path 1 and Path 2 is roughly $100,000 in net worth. That's not a rounding error. That's a decade of financial head start.
But here's where the college narrative fights back. The lifetime earnings premium is $1 million. That stat is real, but it's also misleading. It compares college graduates to high school graduates with no further training. It doesn't compare them to people who went into skilled trades, certifications, or apprenticeships. It's the wrong comparison. And the degrees that actually drive that $1 million premium? Engineering, computer science, nursing, accounting, pharmacy. These degrees deliver. Starting salaries of $65,000 to $95,000. Clear credential requirements, specific skills the market pays for. But those degrees represent maybe 25% of all college graduates. The other 75%? General business, communications, marketing, sociology, psychology, liberal arts. These aren't worthless, but the wage premium is much smaller. Median salaries of $45,000 to $60,000 even 10 years into the career, and the debt is the same. So the $1 million lifetime premium applies strongly to about 1 in 4 graduates. For the rest, the math is much closer, and in many cases, the trade or certification path wins outright. Here's the mechanism that keeps this system running: credentialism. The idea that a bachelor's degree is the baseline credential for professional life, that without it, you're locked out. And for some careers, that's true. Doctor, lawyer, licensed engineer, teacher. For those paths, the degree is non-negotiable. But for the vast majority of white-collar jobs, marketing, sales, HR, project management, middle management, the degree requirement is a filter, not a necessity. Employers require it because it's easy screening, not because the job actually needs 4 years of education. You need the degree to get past the filter, but once you're past it, the degree isn't doing much. It's a credential tax, an expensive entry fee to jobs that could be done without it. And that tax is getting more expensive every year. Tuition has increased 1,200% since 1980, roughly 8 times faster than wages. The thing you're buying has gotten drastically more expensive, while what it delivers in wage premium has stayed roughly flat. That's a deteriorating investment by definition. Now, let's talk about the debt itself, because this is where a lot of people get trapped in confusion. Your $47,800 at 6% interest. You have options most people don't know about. Income-driven repayment plans cap your monthly payment at 10% of your discretionary income. On $58,000, that's roughly $250 a month instead of $340. Lower payment, but longer timeline. Public service loan forgiveness. If you work for a government agency or nonprofit for 10 years and make 120 qualifying payments, the remaining balance is forgiven, completely, tax-free. If you're on an income-driven plan making $250 a month for 10 years, that's $30,000 paid and potentially $50,000 forgiven. That's the math that makes PSLF worth serious consideration for some people. Refinancing. If you have good credit and stable income, you can refinance federal loans to a lower private interest rate. 6% down to 4% on $47,800 saves you about $2,500 in interest over the remaining loan term. Not life-changing, but real money. Aggressive payoff. If you throw an extra $200 a month at the principal, you cut your repayment timeline from 12 years to about 7. You save roughly $8,000 in interest. That's real. The point is, the debt is a problem to solve, not a sentence to serve. There are tools. Most people don't use them because they don't know they exist. You're lying awake at 2 a.m. on a random Tuesday, running numbers again. You've been paying $340 a month for 6 years. You'll pay it for 12 more years if nothing changes. $73,440 total for a job that pays $58,000. Your friend just bought a house. They're 29. They have equity building. They saved a down payment. They own property. You're 29, renting, $48,000 in debt, maybe $8,000 saved. The degree was supposed to set you up, but your friend without one is objectively in a better financial position. That tightness in your chest, it's not just about money. It's about the narrative you believed, the promise that was made. Do the right thing, go to college, work hard, you'll be set. You did all that, and you're not set. You're behind. There's a psychological thing that happens here.
It's called sunk cost justification. You spent the money, you did the time, so your brain needs it to have been worth it. Otherwise, what was it all for? So you tell yourself, but I got the education, but I grew as a person. But college is about more than money. And some of that is true. College does provide things beyond job training: the social experience, exposure to ideas, the network, personal growth. But here's the question nobody wants to ask directly. Are those things worth $75,000 in debt? Could you have gotten personal growth, social experiences, and exposure to ideas some other way for less? A lot of people would honestly say yes, but they can't admit that, because it means accepting that the decision their parents pushed, that society validated, that they took on massive debt for, might have been a mistake. That's a hard thing to sit with.
Here's what people who actually evaluate this decision honestly do differently before they commit. They start with one question: what career do I want, and does it actually require this degree? If yes, doctor, nurse, engineer, lawyer, then college is the path. Clear ROI, non-negotiable credential. If the answer is no or unclear, they look at alternatives: two-year programs, certifications, apprenticeships. They run the math before signing loan papers, not after. When they do choose college, they're ruthless about cost. Community college for 2 years, then transfer to a 4-year school. In-state tuition only. Live at home if possible. Work through school. Graduate with $15,000 in debt instead of $55,000. Because here's what they understand. Employers don't pay you more because you lived in a dorm and joined clubs. They pay for the credential. So minimize the cost of the credential. The reframe is this: don't think of college as an investment in yourself. Think of it as a credential purchase. What's the cheapest way to acquire this credential so I can access these specific jobs? That mindset leads to $20,000 in debt instead of $75,000 for the exact same outcome in the job market. And if you're advising someone younger, a sibling, a child, a student, don't just say, go to college. Run the math with them first. Ask, what do you want to do? Does it require a degree? If yes, what's the cheapest path to that degree? If no, what are the alternatives? Show them the HVAC comparison. Show them the boot camp comparison. Show them what $55,000 in debt actually costs over 18 years. Let them make the decision with real information instead of cultural pressure. Because the automatic college for everyone pipeline, it's not serving most people well. It's creating debt that delays wealth building, delays homeownership, delays every major financial milestone by a decade. And the people who benefit most from universal college attendance are the universities. They get paid regardless of whether the degree delivers ROI. They collect up front in government-backed loans with zero accountability for outcomes. You graduate with $55,000 in debt and a job paying $45,000, the university doesn't care. They already got their money. So here's the honest answer to whether college was worth it. For some people, absolutely yes. Engineers making $95,000, nurses making $80,000, accountants, computer scientists, healthcare professionals. For them, the credential is required, the wages justify the cost, and the ROI is clearly positive. For a large portion of graduates, maybe the majority, the answer is more complicated. The degree got them into the workforce, but it didn't dramatically improve their financial trajectory compared to cheaper alternatives. And when you factor in debt and opportunity cost, many would have been financially better off taking a different path. That's not a judgment. That's math. College as a universal recommendation, something everyone should do, regardless of career goals or financial reality, doesn't hold up anymore. It's getting more expensive, the wage premium is shrinking, and the alternatives are getting better. For more and more people, it's a bad financial deal. They just don't find out until they're 29, paying $340 a month, watching their non-degreed friends buy houses. The question isn't, was college worth it? The question is, would I make the same choice again, knowing what I know now? For a lot of people, the honest answer is no.